Yes, you read that title right. But I'm 48, and now I have a testimony of God's goodness and His overseeing eye that watches over His children. And I want to share that testimony with you. I've actually been sitting on this testimony um, for a year and a half, and I want to share. I feel like someone can benefit from it, and hopefully it just encourages someone like it did me. That today, actually, I was at a local coffee shop, and I was sitting there and I was writing out scripture for mine and Chris's children, and was praying over them, because when I added Chris to the family, I added more to the family. And now that my children are dating and married, we keep adding to the crew. And so Chris and I are now responsible for more than just my personal three that I birthed. We have several that we are now getting to love on and minister to. And as I was sitting there praying and writing these scriptures, the Lord brought to memory what happened in 2023. So I want to share that with you. Chris and I got married in August, and a couple of months later, I began to have these crazy mood swings, drastic mood swings. I was at work and I would be all over the place. One minute I would be crying and upset and angry, and next minute I'm angry, throwing a fit, and then I'm happy, and then I'm angry, and then I'm happy, and then I'm sad, and I'm crying. And I have a dear friend that I worked with. She would bring me back to reality, and she would say, Rebecca, is this your hormones? And all I could think was, please don't let this be menopause, because I don't know that I can do this for years, because menopause can last years. And I thought, oh no, that's what it's got to be. Well, a couple weeks had passed, and I began to think, surely not, but I am going to go and get a pregnancy test. And the reason I say surely not, because although it's possible, I did not think it was probable that I could have a child. 46, I had had a uterine ablation about a year and a half prior to that, 2 years prior to that. So again, possible, but I didn't think it was probable. So I went to the store, got a pregnancy test, and was waiting for the test to be completed, and I was shaking because something in me knew that that test was going to come back positive. And sure enough, 2 lines popped up. And there I was in my bathroom sobbing because I did not want to start over again. Now, let me say this. I understand that there are women that would be desperate for that situation where they're sitting in their bathroom and they see 2 lines pop up, and they would be so excited because they've not had a child of their own. And I understand that's a sensitive topic, and I want you to know, as a mom, I cannot imagine. But at my age, starting over, having already birthed 3, and having all of these extended members now, I just didn't see how in the world I was going to manage it all. And I sat there sobbing. And if you know Chris, you know how much he loves children. And all I hear is, I can't wait to have grandchildren. I can't wait to have grandchildren. Surprise. You're going to have your own child again. And he was so happy. And y'all, I felt so much guilt because he was happy. I felt so much guilt because I knew there were so many women that would love to be in my position. But it is what it is. I was feeling all of these emotions. And there was one day, a day or two after that, I sat in my closet, and there's so much significance in my closet, me retreating to my closet. I won't go into great detail, but I will tell you, in years past, 8+ years past at that time, anytime I felt turmoil in my life, anytime I felt scared or afraid, fearful, I would retreat to my closet and I would cry and I would pray. It was kind of like my reprieve, my safe haven, hoping and praying that all would go away and I would just be secluded and safe. That had been many years ago. I had not retreated to my closet in many, many years because I was no longer feeling fearful. But in 2023, in that moment where my world had been turned upside down, I found myself in my closet. I was sitting there and I was bawling. I said, God, I can't. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I am too old. I have a full-time job. I'm tired. I'm worn out. I cannot do it. I can't. You see, I was wallowing in my self-pity. I was in a moment of weakness. I was not looking to the Lord for strength. I was only looking at myself. The scriptures tell us when we are weak, He is made strong. And in that moment, I wasn't pulling from God's strength saying, we're going to do this no matter what. I was wallowing in my self-pity. I was scared. I was fearful. And when you are in a moment of weakness, it is a moment where the enemy can come and attack. The enemy can get in there and really kind of mess with you, and that's what he did. The enemy came to me and said, no one has to know about this pregnancy. No one has to know. But the scripture also tells us to take captive every thought. And I knew in that moment that I had to take captive that thought, because that thought was from the enemy. That thought did not come from God. I took captive that thought and I went straight to God with it. And I said, I am terrified. But you are my strength. And you are my peace. And you're my deliverer. And if you think that I can do this, then I'm going to trust you. God also in that moment reminded me that every life has purpose. Every child that is conceived has a plan. There's a purpose for every life. Every human being, there's a purpose. And it wasn't my story to write. It wasn't my story to tell. It was God's story to write. And if He wanted this child to go full term, then He would protect that child and me. He would give me the strength that I needed to be a great mom. And so I relinquished my control, and I'm going to tell you that one's difficult for me, but I relinquished my control to the Lord, and I said, this is yours. I lay it at your feet. If you think I can do this, then I can do this. So I came to grips with the thought of being an old mom, carrying around a carrier, and everybody think I'm the grandmother when I'm the mom. I came to grips with it. Then I called the doctor and said, okay, I am pregnant. I am pregnant at 46. I am pregnant after having a uterine ablation. I need to get in to see you as soon as possible. And thankfully, my doctor got me in quickly. I am sitting in her office waiting, in her office waiting to be seen. I had already taken the pregnancy test. It had come back and it was accurate. It was positive. Come in, she did an ultrasound and she said, yes, you are pregnant. She said, however, the heartbeat is very faint. I don't even know that I really hear a heartbeat. She said, you are probably going to lose this child. And she said, Rebecca, even though I am sad that you're going to lose this child, this would have been really detrimental for your health and well-being. And she began to give me a personal experience of her very own. And I left that doctor's appointment that day, and sobbing, just sobbing, because although I didn't want the pregnancy, I certainly didn't want to lose one. Although I saw my inadequacies in being a mom at 46, I certainly didn't want to lose a child. And don't you know that in that moment, just like before, the enemy came to me and said, oh, look at you. You can't even carry a baby anymore. Talk about feeling worthless as a woman. You know, as a woman, we take pride in our bodies can produce life. Our bodies can carry a child and help it grow. And now the enemy is telling me I'm worthless. But you see, again, that was from the enemy. God comes and he speaks life to us. The enemy comes and speaks death. And so in that moment, once again, took captive that thought, because the Lord had already told me just a day or two earlier, you take captive that thought and bring it to me, and I want to give you strength. So took captive that thought. And the Lord, I heard in my spirit as I'm driving home that day, abide, abide. So I know that abide means to remain. But I want to read a scripture to you. Abide in the scripture. When I heard that, of course, my brain went straight to John 15, and it says, abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can you except you abide in me. In order to produce fruit, a branch must be attached to the vine. So much like a baby, this is what the Lord was showing me. In order for a baby to grow, in order for a baby to be healthy, it is attached to the mother's womb. In that womb, just like a vine and a branch are attached, the womb is attached to the baby. Through that attachment, there is nourishment. That baby is nourished by the mother. That baby is surrounded by a womb. That womb offers protection. That womb offers an opportunity for growth. That womb secures, protects. In that womb, the baby doesn't stress or worry about anything, because inside, when that baby remains in the womb, there's peace there. There's protection. There's love. There's comfort. You know, we don't see a fetus stressing out about life. They're not stressing out about external circumstances. They're safe and secure in a mother's womb. The Lord was showing me that day that if I abide or remain in Him, there's protection. If I abide or remain in Him, there's peace. If I abide and remain in Him, there's room for growth. If I abide and remain in Him, He's going to nourish me. The minute I step outside of that, the minute I step outside of Him, that's when struggles come. That's when stress comes. That's when worry comes. Abide in me, Rebecca. If you abide in me, I'm going to abide in you. And we're going to conquer the world. That's what I saw that day. He and I were going to conquer this. I struggled with the loss of this child because I didn't want to lose a baby. But the Lord was teaching me in that moment that no matter life's circumstances, if I stick with Him, then He's going to get me through every single situation. So it's my prayer for you today that if you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling a lot of turmoil, a lot of stress, a lot of angst, anxiety, maybe depression, worry, abide in Him, and He will abide in you. And in that place, there's strength, there's protection, there's nourishment, there's peace. God bless you all.